Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Cooler Master Cosmos SE. Now, when I first heard about this and saw what, very initial pictures, I did think that essentially all they'd done is taken the Cosmos 2 and taken the middle layer out of it, so it was more of an open plan case. But I was actually very wrong. This is a much smaller case. It's much smaller. It's smaller than the CM Stormtrooper, for example, and I wasn't kind of prepared for that. Like I said, it did take me by surprise. I don't know whether any of you had thought that as well, but like I said, it's much smaller, and the price does reflect that as well, because prices in the UK for this are around the £140 to £150 mark, depending on which one of the e-tailers you go to. So yeah, we've got a £140 Cooler Master case, and we've got a nice big window. And I don't really want to say too much yet, because I do need to show you in and around this. So we'll crack on with the main body of the review, where we look at all the features and all the ming fang dango dango all inside and all that kind of shebang. And then I just need to shut up, don't I? Not having a good day today. Okie dokie, so then, as always, we start at the top and at the front. And down on the bottom section here, we can see that you've got like the recessed tray area. You've got two USB 2s and two USB 3s. Obviously now, these have got an internal power, internal connection. Up on this side, we have the power switch. And then we've got the LED switch, which I can't show you because we have changed all the fans in here. But it does turn the lights on and off with the front 120mm fans, which I'll get to show you where they were in a minute. And a reset switch. What I am going to do, just quickly, is flick the lights off. It won't go completely dark because it is still daytime, and just turn it on quickly. And you can see little LED trails up this side. These are connected with the hard drive activity, and then this one is like your power LED. And as I did say about the 120mm fans, they are in the front just down here, and if we hadn't changed the fans, you can turn the LEDs on and off. They are blue as well to match. What I'm going to do is just turn that off. That does go off real quick because it's not getting to Windows yet, just in case you're wondering. Now, further up on the roof, rather than moving the camera about all over the place, there's a little thumb screw at the back that I've already removed, and then you can slide this top section backwards and then lift it out, and then that exposes the fans that we have in the roof. We are using jet flows in this. It was just because they're the new ones that Cooler Master have brought out. So we've made the rig with all Cooler Master stuff. On request, I might add. But anyway, so we've got the two 120s up here, but you can put two 140s as well. But we'll talk about that in a little minute. The most important thing with the roof section though is the fact that you can put the fans outside. And then we'll slide that back in, and then it clicks and locks into place. Now, if I undo the tripod, we come down to the front now. We'll have to relocate. There we go. So you've got the three optical covers. These are very similar, or they're the same as the Cosmos 2. And then you've got the expansion area for your optical drives, should you want to use them. But what I'm going to do is move the camera back a little bit, because I want to give you a slightly better look at the front. Now this front section, it does come off, but you just need to remember something when you if you buy it, and that's to take it off, you pull out first and then slide down, because you can just slide it up and click it in, but then it comes off really easy. What you have to do when you're refitting it is slide it up to the top and then push, and it's got two locating pins on the bottom here. Look, there's two locating pins, and they need to get pushed into place. And I've just taken the side panel off because I've not got it screwed in. Right, so eagle-eyed among you may have realised something quite confusing. So I'm going to remove the mesh panel, and there's the first confusing thing. And I will talk about this in the conclusion on my thoughts of this, but the top fan is probably just under a third concealed by a non-ventilated optical bay cover and if I take the other one off, literally the optical cover isn't really doing much in there. You would have to remove the hard drive cages for the optical bay cover to ever have been of use, really. Even then you're not going to want it there. So you can use the optical bay if you want. So for argument's sake, you could have an optical bay at the top, disk drive at the top, and then a dual reservoir, but even then you're going to run into some, and I find this a very confusing, to be fair. It's not something I particularly like. It's probably the only thing I don't like, but we will talk about that more in the conclusion. So there's a good look of the front. I'll scroll up. Obviously you can see the Cosmos feature handles on the roof. What I'm going to do quickly now is just move the case around, and we'll have a look at the back panel first, I think. Okay then peeps, so I'll first look at the side panel. The side panel does look very similar to the kind of bulges that we got on the original Cosmos actually. So kind of going back to its heritage. Now I'm just going to take it off quickly, and it's a slide and fit style side panel. It's actually real simple to do. I can do it even with the cables in one hand. Now we've kind of we've tried to make it tidy-ish is what I'll say. We have clipped some of the cables up, but you know, 20 minutes and you could make your rig that simple. We've got SATA cables in here as well as Molex's, PCI Express, 8 pins straight the way up the top, all of our cables and everything up this side. So we've got everything in there that you would expect. The only thing we've done is the front panel audio and the is clipped up here out of the way. But the things to point out with the back panel is we've got access to the hard drives. I'm in shot now as well. We've got access to the hard drives. We've got plenty of clipping points to put our cables on. As you can see, we've clipped the 8 pin there and there. We've got clips up for the where you could put the 8 pin, or where we've got our fan cables going. And there's a good amount of room in the back as well. I'm just going to grab my ruler, and we have about 20 mil of room behind the hard drive cage, behind the hard drive, flipping it, behind the motherboard. So 22 mil of room, which it's not an acre, but it's not a ginormous case. There's more than enough room. As you could see when I was putting the side panel on, we didn't have any problems because it's got that nice little bulge in the back as well, which does help with the 24 pin cable, but that's actually concealed in the actual, if the panel was flat, these wouldn't touch. So there's a nice amount of room there. Now one thing I will say is I'm just going to unclip this solid state drive that I have here, and that's just so that when we get to the other side I'm not fighting on the cable, but I will show you more about why I've done that in a minute. But I did want to point out I have just unclipped that now. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the back panel back on. In fact, I'll do it in front of you to show it's that simple again. Come on Tom, there we go. Bonk. So we've got that on. I'm going to spin the case around and show you the other side. Hokey choke peeps. Right, so we're on to the other side and we can see the window. It's also slightly smoked and very shiny. But a nice deep window. If I take it off, we'll get our first look at the inside. We will have to have several camera angles, I believe, for this. But what we can see from the get-go is we've got the hard drive area here. These are modular bits that we can take out, but we do need to cover this in kind of quite a bit of detail, so get comfy. What I do need to do is find my tape measure, and I can pretty much guarantee that Jay sat on it. And if you want to, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll talk about the hard drive areas and stuff, because this kind of bit is pretty complicated, because you can take all the bits out and change them. But when you've got hard drive cages in, it does affect graphics cards and all kinds of stuff. So I'll spin this around so I can show you. There we go. This is why I wanted to unclip this solid state drive, but we've if you have them all fitted, there are 2 hard drive cages down here that you can access from the front, and that's why you can remove that panel. I just didn't want to talk about it until we got to the inside, just so that, because it could get confusing, but you can access those there, and the cables are viewable from the inside. It's not a hot swap or anything. You do still have to connect them all up, you know, properly. So you've got 2 there, and then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that go to the front. If you remove it, what I've got is the solid state drive screwed in, just normal, although there's only 2 screws in it. But this hard drive cage I actually think is wicked. Right, I'm just getting it so that you can see it like I can. There we go, I'm stood behind the camera now. So what you can do is there's a little lever here. See? And it opens it up. Now what that does is that then makes it that little bit wider, and you might be thinking, but Tom, hard drives aren't wider. No, they're not wider. But it does mean, rather than having to bend your hard drive cages like old, you can slide your hard drive cage in and then just pinch it shut. So the thing that I need to show you is you can have a solid state drive screwed in if you want, or if we grab an empty one, I'll do it in front of you. We just open it up like that, slide our hard drive in, locate it one side, and then snap it shut. So if I hold it a little bit further away, there you go, you can see I've released it, hard drive out, hard drive in, snap shut. That simple, absolutely awesome. But also, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to locate that again. You can see it's fitted properly, it's all located. So we'll slide this in here just to show you that, you know, that's the hard drive fitted. But also, what I do like is, like I said, they've got screwing points on the back so that you can screw your solid state drives in. But also, if you have a look, they've got tabs underneath for solid state drives. So what you can do is, as I'm doing here, line it up. Now I've used quite fat solid state drive screws, but you can have, and the screw holes do line up, or they do when I put them in properly. You can see that we've got the screw holes there, so we can screw that solid state drive in. One cage can hold 2 solid state drives. There you go. So if you were using the bottom mounts here, you could have 2 solid state drives in RAID 0, and then you could have your storage drive on 2 clips. I love that idea, I really do. I probably would have tried to have made more of a feature, but if I was just doing a quick build for me because I was lazy, or for, you know, somebody else that didn't want me to spend hours and hours and hours fabricating something to make them look all tarty, obviously that's real simple and you can do. And again, removing it is an absolute doddle. But we can leave that in there for the minute. So there you can see we have 2 solid state drives fitted, and we have the mechanical drive just kind of sat there. Now tape measure, because this bar is fixed. It does make me think very much like the CM Stormtrooper. It's got the same kind of feel, but this case is smaller. Now maximum graphics card length, I would probably advise to be about 280mm. Now I say 280mm, but what I mean is if you have, or if you want to use all of your hard drive cages, because, as I will now try and show you, I'm just going to turn the camera off quickly and I'll try and show you that these can be removed. Okay then peeps, so these end modules can be removed, and each kind of module part has 2 hard drive cages attached. If you want to have longer graphics cards, you can do, because as you can see, and you can see that the graphics card will fit in the gap underneath this bar easily. But it will mean, say for example, if we were just going to have one graphics card in this, we could get away with just removing this middle section. If you were going to go SLI, you'd have to remove both. But what this also does mean, as these all can be removed, It does come with mounts to fit water cooling radiators. Now later on, when we're a little bit further into the review, what I am going to do is remove these sections, and there's some on both sides that you have to remove if you want to fit a rad. Yeah, you can whiz these out. So a bit later on, once we've looked at everything else, I'm going to buzz these all out and I'll show you the water cooling placement in the top. But while we've got the camera in this lovely position, what I am going to do is that's just spin it round ever so quickly. Now I have got the Sidon, is the Sidon, isn't it? Yeah, the Sidon 240 in the roof, which is exactly the same thickness radiator as the H100i, but we've got the Sidon in there just to make a change. Like I said, Cooler Master wanted me to reuse all their bits, so I said yes. Now what I will say is that's roughly a 25mm thick rad, and I say roughly a 25mm thick rad, it's actually 27, so it's the same as the H100. What I would say in the roof of this case is I wouldn't personally go more than 30mm thick. 30mm thick, you know, the absolute fattest. And then what you would have to do is have your fans outside. And as I always suggest, and it is only just my suggestion, the way I set my cases up is if I have stuff in the roof, it's exhausting. People always ask about like heat and stuff, and shouldn't I have them sucking cold air in? You can have it set up that way if you want, but I'm just a bit of a stickler for the way I've always done things, and that's, like I said, having it exhausting out. If you want a bit more airflow, spin your back fan round. I need to make sure that you can see where my hand is. Yeah, spin your back fan round and have it coming in. You can get filters pretty easy. Now this rear fan is 120mm, and it comes with a 120 in the back as standard, two 120s in the front, and then there's a 140 that they have in the roof as standard. We've swapped these all out for white LED jet flows, and they're all 120s. And like I said, that was just because we were trying to make it look pretty for the review. They're all white LEDs. I can't remember whether I've said that anyway. So your AIOs you can get fitted in the roof easily. Cooler Master's one fit, Corsair will fit. If you're going to go full water cooling, then this top rad, like I said, 30mm max, fans must be on the outside. Other than that, on the inside, I need to move the camera again so that we can have a slightly set back look. So I will be back with you shortly, rather than making you feel seasick as I chuck you around the room. Right, okay, so we're back on the side. We've got it all tipped up so that you can see properly. If you hear any fans start to spin in the background, then we'll just kind of, it'll be the bench rig on the other side. Jay's just doing some BF4 stuff. So it would just be the AX1200i, because it does a full speed spin up for, I think it's 5 seconds every first boot, and that's to test the fan speed before you wonder why. It's basically just to make sure it's still there. But anyway, so inside section of this case. Now this is just a normal ATX sized motherboard. It's not like the Rampage, which is slightly fatter ATX. It's not longer or anything. But what we can see here is that it is quite compact. Now sometimes cases don't say that they accept ATX, like the Rampage Extreme for example. But classic examples are like the 600T doesn't say that it supports it, but the Rampage would fit fine. With this case it wouldn't, because even the normal ATX covers up some of the grommets, and I'm going to try and get the camera in there so that you can see. I think I've probably just made things about 10 times worse, but we'll see if we can do it this way. Yeah, that's going to be the way, Tom. That's going to be the way. Right, so then we can zoom you in. Doo-doo-doo. Wait for the camera to sort its shit out. There you go. You can see that the grommet is half covered already. If you had one of the slightly skinnier boards, like the new Gigabyte G1 Sniper Z87, that's not proper full-size ATX width. That wouldn't cover it, but anything else will. Now if we were to fit a Rampage in this, those grommets would be completely covered. You'd still be able to screw it in, you'd still be able to use it, but you'd have to find some way of getting those cables out. So that's just kind of something you guys are going to have to keep in mind, that things can be tight. And what I would suggest is when you're building, you put your cables through first. Now the power supply has got a little extension on the back that you can fit on it. and it does come with a removable dust filter, although as always I've got mine with the fan up because I like it. And we've got the Cooler Master V850 in there, which is one of their new gold power supplies. It's actually quite a good looking power supply in there, but anyway, so we've got that in. Now, like I said, things in this kind of area, we've got it all in lovely, we've got all our hard drives in, but if we were going to use a bigger graphics card, something like, I'm just going to try and grab it, oosh, because we've got that's a 650 tie boost, and it's not a massive graphics card, it's only, let's have a look, 240mm long. I'm just about to try and fit the 290X in, and this is just, you know, fudge tight. Just you wouldn't be able to get it in without removing one of these cages. So if you're going to be using one of these big behemoth graphics cards, then you are going to want to remove at least one of these hard drive cages. But what I'm going to do now, actually, what I was going to do, I have to admit, I was going to remove the all the hard drive cages and then show you about water cooling radiators in the front. But the brackets are real simple. I don't think you guys are that silly. The brackets are real simple to screw in, and you essentially you have to take all of these hard drive cages out. So you're left with the two in the bottom, and then you can use these, and you can fit 120s or 140 radiators up in this section, and it all becomes all nicely open. If you were to have the big graphics card in, it only just comes to the edge of this grill. So then what we can say is, if you were to have a 240 in the front, don't forget our fans are 25mm thick, but they're on the outside. So we've got 120mm of room easy on the inside. So you could easily have an 80mm thick radiator in here and then another set of fans, so in push pull, and still be able to get your graphics card in as well. And that would be whether you had a 140mm fan base rad or a 120mm fan base rad. So what I will say is you can get a 240 in the front with the fittings, excuse me, a 240 in the front with the fittings, in push pull, up to 80mm thick, and then a 30mm thick radiator in the roof with a single set of fans, as long as they're on the outside. With a bit of modding, you could easily get a 360mm radiator in the front, but you will lose your hard drive cages at the bottom. You'd have to take all of that out, and if you were to take all of those out, like I said, you'd get a 360 in, and you would just have to mod those the optical bay covers. But it would be a relatively simple job if you're looking for a project. It's not going to be for those lazy ones of you out there that just want to, you know, take everything out of the box, throw everything at the case as quickly as humanly possible, and that's it, my case is done. But for those of you out there that do like a little bit of a project and want to take your time and try and make it look as good as you possibly can do, there are a lot of options. And again, because of all this kind of section, it reminds me of the Stormtrooper, which then gets my my brain ticking over all the different things that I could possibly do with it. Now, I don't think you'd be able to get away with putting a 360 in the roof in this one, but it does make me start thinking about maybe the possibility of us doing a proper modding guide with this case, for example. But I'm gonna think on with that. But we've covered pretty much everything. So all we need to do now really is put the side back on and then break onto a conclusion. Okay then, so you've made it to the conclusion, and it is quite a complex conclusion because I've already filmed this 3 times. And the thing that keeps changing in the conclusion, as my head's processing it, I've been changing my mind about the award. And I think I'm going to take a bold step, and I'm going to say I'm going to give this a silver award, which may surprise a lot of people. But I'll kind of explain why. Now, my reasoning for it being a silver may not affect you in the slightest, and I certainly don't want you to think, oh my god, it's got a silver, I just can't buy it, because it's still a very, very good case. Silver just means it's not quite perfect. And to be fair, the first thing that's not quite perfect about it has to be that semi-hidden fan. And I don't really care about any reason about, you know, what they're going to say about, well, you can still use the optical tray behind it and stuff like that if you want. The fact that that fan is completely covered up, or rather the fan cover that goes, the optical bay cover that goes in front of it, it's got no mesh or anything, so it means it's having to pull from the front. I really don't like it. Then the two fans down the bottom don't have any cooling at all. Now that's not a problem. I really don't give a monkeys about that, but I kind of think that really that those two bays at the front might have been better moved slightly further up, and then these moved down. Now I understand that these two fans are going to be blowing at where the graphics cards and stuff is. I understand all these bits and bobs, but it just doesn't work for me. And if I was to keep this case for myself, and I have even sat there and thought about what I would do if I had it, I would have to make some changes to these bays just to open it up, but I'd probably end up putting the 360 in there anyway. So that's one of the things with it that made it silver. It's probably the main point, but also for £140, I know that it's got, you know, the what I'll call the body kit, the plastic on the outside and the handles and all that kind of stuff. I understand that all adds value. I know it's, all adds cost to the consumer, and that's all perfectly fine. But for £140 case, I don't think that the water cooling side of things is good enough. Let's put things into context. And I know people don't like it when I, grab a specific case and kind of put it up against it. And I know that the case that I'm going to compare it to has a much simpler design, but that makes it cheaper. And that's the Corsair 750D. You can fit a 360 in the roof, and you can put a massive 240 in the front. And that comes in at the, £120 mark? Now I understand this has got loads of extra stuff around the outside that is going to add value to that point. But it's got the same amount of hard drives that you can put in, or is it 6? You've got loads of hard drives that you can put in, and you can take them all out. You don't get left with that big bar in the middle of it. Cable management and all that kind of stuff does make it very good. So for a water cooling case for 140 quid, it's very lacking, and it's on the expensive side as well. Although I could probably, with a weekend or so's work and a little bit of time in, I could probably make this, evolve into a water cooling case that I could use, as I ended up doing with the CM Stormtrooper. If you've not seen my Orca build, I ripped the inside of that case to bits. And I made it fit exactly what I wanted. Although many people are now going to say that the CM Storm logo on Orca is covered, the fan behind it's covered up by it. But anyway, so we've got that. So and then the other thing really is in the main compartment area, we've only got a standardised ATX card in there, but it does mean that it's very kind of restricted. It's very tight for space in there. And then if you want to run a big graphics card, like I said, the 290X doesn't fit natively in there, you have to start removing modules. Now, I'm not saying that's a massively bad idea, because if I was going to run it with a 280X in there anyway, I would want to remove some of these hard drive bays so that it would aid airflow in the front over the graphics card. But although I'm an SSD boy and I don't use storage or optical or mechanical drives, because I've obviously got a home server at home, a lot of you people out there might not. And you might want some extra one of these bays, and then that might end up messing up with an SLI configuration or something. So let's say that you guys, someone out there's got 2 or 3 mechanicals and a couple of solid state drives. I'm just picking numbers out of my head. If you had that and SLI graphics, you wouldn't be able, and big SLI graphics card, I will say, you wouldn't be able to get it all in, and you'd end up having to run your mechanical drives right at the top here, for example, or maybe the solid state drivers at the bottom. You'd have to break them up. And although then that would still allow you to be able to get that airflow in the front, it would also mean that your hard drives are kind of all over the place. And I don't know about you guys, but I like things to kind of, balance and match and stuff. So it's one of those type of things that you have to kind of, if I do this, I have to do that. And if I do that, if I've got this, I have to do something else. Now, I don't really think I'm really putting this case down, because I like it. I like the fact that they've made the Cosmos smaller. I like the fact that they've made that kind of design more accessible for the end user. And especially where it's obviously dropped the price down. People that couldn't have afforded the Cosmos 2 now have the ability to have this. Another good thing about making it so much smaller, awesome, courier outside, I don't know whether you can hear that. By making it so much smaller, if you don't have loads of hardware, you know, massive graphics cards and boards and stuff, this is going to make it look like your kit's much bigger because the space is much more confined. Now, because it is much more confined, one thing I will say, if you've got a hot system, only you will be able to know that, I will say that you're probably going to want to remove some of these or all of these hard drive cages just so that you can get more airflow in the front, because they're not the most free-flowing of designs. I didn't run into any massive heat issues when I was doing this, but I do know that, you know, by taking them out and tweaking the airflow path, that you could make things, you know, better on the inside depending on what you guys end up running. I know most people end up just running the same fans and just getting on with it, but I personally like to turn, you know, have a decent airflow path and run the fans nice and low, so not only do I get adequate airflow, but it's not making me deaf either. But this is also stuff that's very specific to me, and you need to kind of balance it out with what your requirements are. So I'm just trying to, you know, have to be very specific now that I'm kind of advising you on my thoughts on it, but you can just take this, you know, take the points that you want and then make your own choice about it. So yes, so that's pretty much why I thought it was silver. If that front end had been fixed slightly better and maybe there was slightly better radiator support in it, it may have tipped over to the gold ward. It's only just a silver, it's a very shiny silver. But I thought I needed to make a little bit of a stand on this one because I gave the Cosmos 2 a gold, and you know, the water cooling support was quite limited on that as well, especially the top radiator. And for this, when you get down to this kind of area, I'm not going to say that people want more value for money when you get down to the cheaper cases, but when you get down to this kind of area, your clients, they're not the type of people that just go credit card and they just go and spunk their money, it doesn't matter, and then they make do. With this kind of price bracket, what we do know is that the clients know exactly what they want, and if they don't get it, they're not going to be very happy about it. And I think that for this, they could have done a few things that wouldn't have added any extra value, you know, added any extra engineering costs to the case. It wouldn't have had any difference that way, but it would have opened up more options and availability for configuration on the inside, which is obviously better. For the more variations in configuration that you can have on the inside, the more of a wider market appeal that you're going to get to lots and lots of different consumers. I'm hoping I'm not saying that so it's confusing for you, because I'm starting to confuse myself, but I know what I'm trying to say in my head. If they'd changed a few little bits and bobs, it could have been something that more and more people would have wanted. So I'm going to give it the silver award based on all those kind of little points, but it is a very, very shiny silver. One thing I will say, and this is a point out to Cooler Master, and I did say this to them on Skype before it even arrived, is make me a white one. If you make me a white one, I will replace Orca with this case. Don't expect the inside to look the way it does now, but I will replace Orca with this case because I do want to rip it to bits. 100% want to rip this case to bits, and by that I mean sort the inside out so that I can use it. I know I'm not going to be able to get a 360 in the roof without a lot of effort, but you know, I'm willing to put some effort in to make this, you know, the type of case that I can use. So there's a challenge for you. And I don't think we've ever seen a white Cosmos. I know we got the white Stormtrooper, but I think now we need Cooler Master to step up. We want more white cases. So a very well-deserved shiny silver award, not quite gold, but just because of a few little problems that I think that you shouldn't have to compromise on around this kind of price bracket, because it is a very, very competitive price bracket. Kind of the £100 to £150 price bracket is immense, and I can think of, you know, several cases off the top of my head that when you move away from the aesthetics on the outside and just talk about what you can put on the inside, do, you know, better this for less money. So it really depends whether it's about what you can put on the inside or whether you want to buy the case for the externals, because that's really what this is about. It's about having a baby Cosmos, and then but you do have to make a few compromises with, you know, the stuff that you can put on the inside. Although I'm sure I've said that twice. I'm a bit confused. Maybe I need more coffee. Anyway, this is Tiny Tom Logan with another video, which just happened to be about the silver award-winning Cooler Master Cosmos SE out.